We got 10 games around the NBA tonight, and here to help you with some building blocks, who to stuff inside your lineups, we got DraftKings contributors Nick Friar, Matt Meiselman back with us. Again, NBA building blocks. Let's start with guard. Which guard are you building your DFS lineups around, Nick?
John Morant was the first guy I was looking at today because he's going up against the Nets. But then I started paying attention to the Washington-Charlotte game because Bradley Beal has done well without Spencer Dinwiddie in the lineup. And we know the Hornets aren't exactly a strong defensive team. And I think Bradley Beal's got to be the guy you go with tonight. I know he's going to be a popular play because his usage rate hikes up over 30% without Dinwiddie on the floor. The Hornets are 28th in defensive efficiency, and they're second in pace. So this is a game, you look at the total too. It is sky high over on DraftKings Sportsbook. But Bradley Beal he delivers when Dinwiddie's not in the lineup. 3 consecutive games with 55 plus DK fantasy points, and then Charlotte too is allowing the second most DK fantasy points to the shooting guard position too. I know Beal's handling the ball a little bit more right now, especially with his usage rate up, but still, I like this guy a lot tonight at 10.4K.
Hey, Matty, who do you like at guard tonight?
Beal's probably one of the 2 chalk guards that I think really you kind of just have to have. The other one's Anthony Simons, who's just way too cheap. And normally I would say when Damian Lillard doesn't play, you get a much lower scoring game because the Blazers play some guys who just kind of walk the ball up the court, and then they have some bigs, but they don't have that. And they're also playing the Hawks, who have Trae Young back, but not much else. And that sets up to be really, really problematic defensively. And we've seen that in recent games. So Simons is only 4,100. He probably starts at point guard. There's a ton of usage for him. It's really hard to see him playing without injury, foul trouble, minutes limited, some kind of thing like that, because it's a really, really good matchup, and he's way underpriced. So I kind of think you just lock him in.
All right, cool. Is there a forward you would consider building your lineups around, Matt?
Yeah, I'll just stick to the same theme because Norman Powell is virtually in the same situation. He's 6,500, which I think could mean that he's not quite as popular. We're going to see a lot of value on this slate. There's a lot of guys not playing, as is the case basically every day in the NBA right now. The Clippers are probably the main team where you see a lot of the chalk play is someone like Marcus Morris, maybe more popular than Norman Powell. But I feel like, especially if you decide you don't want to play Simons because he's 80% or something like that, you're going to need someone on Portland, because with this matchup against the Hawks, someone has to produce here. The chances that the Blazers just only score 90 points tonight, I really don't think that's realistic. So I'd probably just go with Powell and Simons, but certainly at least one of those 2 guys.
Yeah, and even with Lillard in the lineup lately, he's been averaging 32 fantasy points per game there. Nick, what about you? A forward you would consider building your lineups around?
Norman Powell is the guy for me as well tonight too, because when you look at his usage rate, when Lillard, Nurkic, and McCollum are not on the floor this season, he leads the team as you would expect in usage rate. It's all the way up to 36%. And then the Hawks are one of the least efficient teams on the defensive end this season, bottom 10. I think they were 22nd. So yeah, this one's kind of a no-brainer. As much as his price maybe could deter some people, I just think this is a game where you're going to see points scored, and someone's got to do it for the Blazers, and Powell should be the guy too.
Yeah, with Atlanta 27th in defensive efficiency, too. Can you build your lineup around a center, Nick?
Yeah, I'm actually going to stay in this game. This is probably one of my favorite ones tonight. Matt hit on one of the other guys I do want to talk about later, but when we're talking about center, I'm going to go on the other side of this matchup with Clint Capella at 8.5K going up against the Blazers. No John Collins. Doesn't impact his usage rate this season, and there's a small sample size with that, but still, you would think he's going to get more scoring chances, more rebounding opportunities especially. And when you look at what's happened since Collins has been out, he had Capella had 22.25 DK fantasy points on Christmas Day with Collins in the lineup. Next game, 34. Next game, 42.75. And then the last game, 61.25. So there's a little bit of a trend there. So with no Collins, he's a guy you got to look to. And with Yusuf Nurkic, he's doubtful tonight. He's been out. Unless that goes to questionable, then okay, maybe it makes Capella a little bit less appealing. But still, I think offense has got to come from somewhere in this game besides Trae Young. And if Nurkic is out, no one's going to be stopping Capella.
Yeah, maybe he's not that overly popular given his season high in salary. Matt, what about you? How about a center you like?
I think there's one center with massive, really massive upside tonight that no one's going to want to play, and it's because of blowout risk with Joel Embiid. So I think Capella's a good call. I think there are other centers kind of in that range that people will want to play. And then if you're going to pay up, you just take Jokic, right? Because he's playing the Mavericks. That should be a close game. Jokic is basically just great against anyone. It doesn't really matter who the opponent is. But Embiid has a better matchup against the Houston Rockets. The problem is the 76ers are favored by 13 points right now. And if there's a blowout, like he probably doesn't top 50. But if this game ends up staying close, and one thing to watch is Matisse Thybulle is questionable. He's the best defensive player on the Sixers, one of the best defensive players in the NBA, or at least non-Embiid defensive players. I should make that caveat. But if Thybulle's not there, better chance the game stays close. And it's just if the Sixers don't play well defensively tonight and the Rockets score some points and keep up, Embiid is going to have to do a lot more. So I think there's huge upside for him, which should be really low ownership.
Matt, who's the value play right now to make sure you get inside your lineup?
So we mentioned a lot of these Portland and Washington guys. So I'm going to go off the board a little to a situation where we don't really have – we definitely don't have news yet, but I think there's a chance that the Heat, despite playing in what would be a big game ordinarily in Golden State, I think there's a chance that at least a guy or two sits for them. This is their third game in 4 nights. They were in Sacramento last night. They actually lost the game. It was a close game. All their starters had to play big minutes. Butler has been back for 2 games and has had to play a lot in both of them. If, let's say, Butler or Lowry sits, you could get some really cheap Miami guys, like, let's say, Caleb Martin, 4,700, Nick Stauskas, 3K. Like, I can't believe we're talking about him. But the Heat are really thin already, and if they end up deciding they want to rest someone just because this is a Western Conference game, it doesn't really matter for them for playoff implications. It's cool to face Steph Curry. That's really the only reason this game matters for them. If they go that route, this could open up a lot of value on this team.
And I know every day on the DK Playbook, Zach Thompson has a nice little piece with some of the top values on the slate. He's been hitting a lot of his picks lately. Nick, what about you, man? Who's a good value play tonight?
Yeah, Anthony Simons was the guy that I was looking at before, and I know Matt's talked about him quite a bit. And I know he's not listed on the injury report, but this is his first day back. If you have any apprehension about him, or for some reason he is a late scratch, because we've seen plenty of those around the league this season for various reasons. If he's a late scratch, Dennis Smith Jr. is a guy who I would like in this without Simons, because there were 3 games where he got heavy minutes before his stretch that he was out, and he returned 5 times value. And each of those games was like 37, 39, 42 minutes. So he's going to in when you have no Simons and then the other 3 big guys for Portland off the floor. Smith Jr. has one of the highest usage rates on the team, second to only Norman Powell.
Nick, let's go Slater Proof pick. Let's go to the DK Sportsbook for this one. So give me your favorite bet to build your betting card around.
Yeah, so there were a few games that I was looking at, and then I saw some of the totals, and I was like, okay, I can't go anywhere near this. It was the Nets game, the Washington Hornets game. As much as for DFS purposes, you can have some value there, but I like the Piston-Bucks game going over on that one, 225.5 points for that one. The Bucks have been cooking gas lately. They've scored over 127 points in each of the past 3 games. The overs hit the last 4 games. And I know Detroit, too, one of the least efficient teams on the defensive end, but they're also 9th in pace, and they've hit the over in 3 of their last 4 games. But if you're looking for a little extra value, go with Bradley Beal to get a double-double tonight. It's at plus 120 last I checked, going up against the Hornets again. Talked about it, how he's been doing great without Spencer Dinwiddie. He's coming off back-to-back double-doubles. For me, this is the best value one you can get tonight.
Matty Meiselman, bring us home.
Yeah, so my favorite bet looking at this last night was Golden State for their home game against Miami. Like I mentioned, I think Miami has a shot to rest some players. That line's moved from 9 up to 11 already. Maybe that's an indication that there's a chance for rest there. So even as double-digit favorites, if, let's say, Butler and or Lowry decide to rest tonight, the Warriors would be favored probably by 15+ in that game. So I'd be looking there. And then also there's a small chance that we get Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell back tonight. Minnesota's +4 against the Clippers on the road. They had a tough loss against the Lakers last night, but obviously no travel there. They're just playing again in the same spot, in the same stadium. So I think the Wolves at +4 are interesting regardless, but if they get one of those 2 guys back, I think both are questionable for conditioning. Maybe they haven't cleared protocols yet, but they're expected to. They just may still be out for conditioning. I still like the Wolves either way, but if they get one of those guys back, then they'd probably even wind up favored in this game. So this could be one to watch. Those are the 2 latest games on the slate, so watching for news is going to be critical there.